Hey guys, my name is Kirsty. Welcome back to Upside Down Books. Today we're going to be looking at my reading goals for 2020. So happy new year to everybody. It is the 3rd of January as I am filming this today and I am ready to tackle the new year with new reading goals. I've spent a lot of time making charts and spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff to plot my TBR for 2020 because why socialize when you can make spreadsheets? I have not planned all the books that I want to read in 2020. I have just planned specific goals and certain series that I want to tackle. So my Goodreads reading challenge for 2020 is 95 books. The weather today is going to kill me and there's nothing I can do about this. If I manage to read all 95 books, that will be the most I have ever read in one year. My best was 85 in 2016, so I was aiming for roughly 10% better than what I have previously done. Again, I have to apologize for the lighting today. I'm really struggling because the sun is there 1 minute and then gone the next. So 95 books is the plan. That means I have to read 2 books per week. And this is always an ambitious task because some months I can do it and other months I can only manage 2 books. So we're gonna see how this year goes, but I really want to try and do it because I really want to get through so many of these books on my shelves. Now, being the 3rd of January, I am on track and I have already finished my first book for the year, which was Firelight, and I really enjoyed that and that was fun and I'm really happy that I am on track at this point. So currently I have 264 books on my TBR, and those are the physical books that I have and own that are on these bookshelves that you can see around me. Do I have a problem? Probably. So if I managed to read the 95 books, that would be awesome. I'd be looking at a much more feasible TBR and feeling much less bad about my buying habits. I'm anticipating that my TBR probably won't go down in numbers that much because I will continue to buy and receive books throughout the year as per usual, which, you know, I'm just gonna not get my hopes up at this point that it might get lower than 200. I worked out that the number of pages that I have to read that are on my TBR, so of the 200 plus books on my TBR, there's over 100,000 pages worth of reading, and that statistic's terrifying me, so we're gonna move on from that. I then had a look at the size of the books on my TBR. So I've got my pie charts. Basically, I made some pie charts to have a look at the size of the books that are on my TBR. So the majority of the books that I have fall between the 300 and 400 page category, which is awesome because those are your standard and average size books, which I guess is why it's the majority. So 44% of my books are between 300 and 400 pages long, and the second largest category is 28%, and that's the bracket for 400 to 500 pages. So a lot of them do clip over the 400 page mark, but that's fine. So that was one of the real leading factors for me choosing what I'm going to read this year, because if I'm going to do 95 books, I'm going to have to shy away from big books. And in 2019, one of my goals was to read bigger books, and I did a really good job of that. So this year, I'm going to treat myself and enjoy just reading all the small and really easy reads. I then had a look at the genres that I have on my TBR. So unsurprisingly, fantasy wins by a long stretch. 46% of the books on my TBR are fantasy books, which is awesome, and I will probably read a similar percentage throughout the year of fantasy books because I just love them. It's my go-to genre. What I was really surprised to see was that my second biggest genre was actually historical fiction, and that came in at 16%, and I wasn't expecting that because as much as I love historical fiction, I don't tend to read it as much because it takes longer to read. I thought that sci-fi or something else might claim the second spot, but no. It was historical fiction. Following that, we do have sci-fi, however, and that comes in at 11%. So I don't read a whole lot of sci-fi. I certainly read almost exclusively young adult sci-fi. I read a lot of hard and adult sci-fi in 2019, and whilst that was really great and you got some really great stories from those books, they consistently were the ones that bogged me down and meant that I was stuck on one book for a month. So I'm pretty much going to avoid those books for all of this year for the sake of trying to reach 95 books. It's so not gonna happen. So then, because I was having so much fun making spreadsheets, I had a look at the statistics of books on my TBR that are standalones versus in a series and where I'm at in those series. And I have to say this shocked me a little bit. 60% of my TBR are series, so books that are part of series, whilst 40% are standalones. And I thought that was scary because I also worked out that with 60% of my TBR being part of a series, that means that if I also then counted the rest of the books in the series, my TBR goes well over 500. And that's not okay. But then if we specifically focus on the series to see how many of these series I've actually started, This was even worse, because one thing I really want to focus on in 2020 is finishing series and making progress with series. Well, guess what, guys? 67% of the series of the books that are a part of a series on my shelves are the very first book in a series. I haven't even started them. I have 67% worth of series to start. Which means there's so many books. So yeah, only a measly 33% of the books on my shelves are series that I'm partway through. I definitely should be focusing on those. So there's a good chunk of my TBR that is going to be waitlisted for a bit because I want to try and get some series finished. Now, I then worked out, to take that further, of the series that I have actually made progress in, so there's 33%, I tried to work out how many of them I was on the last book, so about to finish. And it turns out that it's not very many. There are only 13 books on my TBR, 13 series that I'm about to finish. And I worked out what those 13 books are, and I'm going to talk about them because they are going to be my first priority after reading my Christmas haul. So now that I've kind of wrapped my head around exactly what is on my TBR at the moment, what have I been buying and what have I been putting off, I definitely think that I need to spend 2020 focusing on series. So there are 3 things that I will be focusing on in 2020. I'm going to continue a goal that I had in 2019, which was to read recommendations and things that have been gifted to me by others, which means that I'll be starting the year off by making my way through the 18 books that I received or bought, accumulated in December for Christmas. Now, I have just done my book haul, so if you want to know what those 18 books are, I'm not going to list them here. You're more than welcome to go across to my blog, which is ozbooksnow.com, and have a look at my 2020 reading goals because I list them there, or you can watch my previous video and see me haul them. What I do want to talk about, however, are the 13 books that need to take priority to finish off some series and boost my morale and feeling like I'm making some serious progress. So book number 1, which also happens to be a huge book, is Tiger's Dream by Colleen Houck. Now, this is the 5th and final book in the Tiger's Curse series, which if you know me at all will know it's my favourite series. But the book is so bloody big that I just haven't wanted to pick it up. I am actually wanting to reread this series, but this year I'm going to be continuing on my reread of the Throne of Glass series, and I just don't think I'm going to get around to it. So I'm thinking I might maybe read some recaps or just dive into it and hope for the best. I have recently reorganized my bookshelf and I don't know where anything is. Now, one of the interesting things I've actually realized looking at these 13 books is a lot of them are books I've put off if they're not fresh on the TBR, simply because I've lost interest in the series. So I'm considering doing a book unhaul at some point and just admitting the fact that I'm no longer interested, or it's been so long since I read the first few books that I've grown up and I've moved on. So the next book that I would like to read to finish off a series is Off the Page by Jodi Picoult and her daughter Samantha Van Leer. Now, I think I will enjoy this when I read it. It's not a particularly long book. It's sort of... the font is different colours. And colourful illustrations. Oh my god. Okay, I feel a little bit more motivated to pick this up now that I've realised that. The font is blue and green. Huzzah. I haven't been particularly motivated to pick this up because I remember it being quite a young story and I just haven't been so motivated, but I think it's one that I will just pick up at some point and get through because I think it'll be fun. Plus, now that I know that there are coloured illustrations in this, I'm definitely more motivated. This was just a duology and it's been on my TBR for such a long time, so it would be really good to just finish this one. The next book that I have that I'm not 100% sure whether it'll finish off a series or not is Chasing the Shadows by Maria V. Snyder, which is one of my Christmas books, so that nicely doubles up with the goal of finishing recommendations and series. I haven't seen that the 3rd book has been announced, so I don't know if this is actually going to be a final one. I suspect not, but if it is, then at the very least I'll be up to date with this. So this is one that will definitely get read and will hopefully finish off or keep me up to date with this series. I then have Nil on Fire, and that's the 3rd and final book into the Nil trilogy, which I was absolutely loving. I was powering through it and then I just sort of put it down. So I don't have any real reason for not having read this one. I just actually started reading it and wasn't feeling it at one point, so I did put it down, but I would like to pick it up at some point. Again, a very short book, a really great dystopian novel about teenagers trying to survive and having 1 year to get off an island or they die, so very Hunger Games-ish. This one I'm sure I'll get around to. I certainly hope I will. I can't wait to do like a year in review at the end of 2020 and be like, well, I read none of them. I have high hopes for this one and I think I'm really going to enjoy it. So if I can do this, then that's a whole trilogy done and that would be amazing. I don't know what any of these books are. The next book is a series that I've been meaning to finish for a long time. That's Fallen Kingdom, which is the Falconer trilogy by Elizabeth May. I actually read the first 2 books from the library. This was one of these random times when I actually went to the library. And then I bought myself the 3rd and final book. This one I've been putting off for a little while simply because it's been a long while between books books 2 and 3 for me, so it's a bit hazy on details, but again, this would be another trilogy that I would finish if I do get around to it this year. The next one I can guarantee you that I will read as well, and that is The Queen of Nothing by Holly Black, which is the third and final book in the Folk of the Air trilogy. This is also a Christmas book, so double the reason to be reading this one. Can't wait, very short, definitely going to happen probably even next week. The next series, which is another trilogy that I'm just one book away from finishing, I will finish with Always and Forever, Lara Jean. This is the third and final trilogy in this contemporary series, which I've really been enjoying, but I just haven't felt in the mood for contemporary for a while, so I'm hoping that I'm really not going to push this series because I think I will not like it if I read it at the wrong time, but this year I'm hoping I'll get in the mood for contemporary at some point and we'll just sit down and binge this one. Maybe, I was going to say maybe in summertime, but it is summertime, so... A series I've been meaning to finish for a really long time and is probably should be prioritized for this year is the Reawakened trilogy by Colleen Houck. Again, my favourite author, and Reunited is the third and final book in this lovely pink hardback edition that I've got, so I'm hoping I'll get around to it. Again, have left it a little long between the books and details are a little bit hazy. Could probably do with rereading this all together, but that's so not going to happen, so I'm hoping that I will just find the courage to pick this up at some point in 2020. Now, one book I'm really not sure I'm going to get to on this list is The Shadowed Sun by M.K. Jemisin. This is the second one in a duology, and I didn't particularly enjoy the first book in all honesty. I just got this second one before I'd read the first one from a secondhand book fair, and everyone seems to really love Jemisin's stuff, so I feel guilty not wanting to read it, but I think I'm probably not going to read this book. I have zero desire to do so. I might read some recaps of it, or if anybody can motivate me and convince me that it's worthwhile, then... But for the most part, I'm so not interested in this one, so I think I'm just going to chop it from the TBR. Speaking of books I'm not interested in reading anymore, there is another one. So this other one I have had for a really long time, probably close to 10 years now. Feel free to come back, son. And that's The Lamplighter by D.M. Cornish. Now the first one was called Foundling and was quite a large book. This is really big and I don't remember at all what it was about. This is middle grade fiction, but this book is huge and I've not read it for that reason. It's nearly 700 pages long and I don't really see myself reading it, so I probably just need to unhaul these books and move on. Following on with this trend of books that I'm just sort of a bit about is Ink Death, which is the last one in a trilogy for me, but I didn't actually enjoy reading Inkspell, and this was one of my challenge books in 2017 or 2018 I think, in 2018 to actually finish because it's been a childhood series I've just never got around to, and I thought, hey, well, maybe I'll just get on and get it read, and I read Inkspell and I didn't actually really enjoy it that much, so I'm quite tempted to just put Ink Death aside and never finish the series. I'm undecided on this one, again, probably not one of the 13 I'm likely to get to. However, the last two books on this list of 13 books that would finish off series on my TBR are Shadowscale and The Toll, and I will definitely be reading The Toll and I would like to finish Shadowscale. I really enjoyed Seraphina. This is just a duology. It's just been a little bit of a while between books, so I'm going to make an effort to try and get around to this one this year. But again, this was a Christmas book and I'm so excited for this, so even though it's quite a big one, I think I'm going to get through this quite quickly, so I will definitely be finishing off the Arc of Scythes trilogy this year. So those are the 13 books aside from my Christmas haul that I'll be focusing on this year. My goal, of course, is to read the 95 and get through as many as I can, so it's going to be a year of focusing on small books and fast reads, so we will see how we go. That's my goal for this year. I just want to read a lot of books. I don't want to make it any more complicated than that. I'm going for the shallow goal of just wanting the numbers and the statistics behind me, and I had a lot of fun making all the graphs to work it out. So let me know in the comments down below what your reading goal is for this year. Are you participating in the Goodreads reading challenge, and do you have any specific goals or series or books that you're trying to get around to? But other than that, I will see you in my next video. Goodbye.